Let's go ahead and do some factoring quadratics when a is equal to 1. Now notice on these four we don't see a coefficient. That means we have a coefficient of 1. These are pretty nice and easy to factor. So I'm going to start off by dropping in my set of parentheses because I know when I factor this I'm going to get the product of two binomials. The only way to get this x squared in the first term is if I have x's as my first term in each binomial. Now, we did the warm-up, and what we discovered too is if my c value is positive, the signs of my factors are going to be the same. They're either going to be plus plus or minus minus. So whenever you see a positive c value, you know the signs are the same. And we know what they are by just looking at the middle term. So I can tell by looking at this, both of the signs within my factors are going to be pluses. And now I want to see, because when I would redistribute this, whatever number I have here times whatever number I have here is going to give me the c value. And then also when I add those, that is going to give me the coefficient of my x term. So I am looking for factors of 10 that when I add them I get a positive 7. So 10 is also 2 times 5 is 10. And if I add them, I get 7, my middle term. So I know this is correct. So I'm just going to drop the 2 in, drop the 5 in here. If you redistribute this, you're going to come back to the original expression and understand too, these are equivalent. So if I were to put this into Desmos, my standard form, and then I do a separate line with my factored form, it would give me the exact same graph. Let's take a look at another. And again, my c value is positive, so my signs are the same. And it tells me by looking at that middle term, they're both going to be minuses. So what I'll do is I'll start out, drop in my parentheses. I can put the x's in. And I know here they're both going to be negative. Now I need two numbers that when I multiply them I get 24, but I add them I get a negative 10. And again, we already know that both of my factors would have to be negative in order for that c value to be positive. So let's take a look. Positive 24. I'm thinking negative 6 and a negative 4. If I add these, negative 6 plus a negative 4, that does give me a negative 10, which is what my middle term is. And also, if I multiply negative 6 times a negative 4, I do get 24. So I will just drop those values in. And we are factored. Now let's take a look here. Here I have my c value is negative. Well, in order for that c value to be negative, the signs of my factors would have to be opposite. So one's going to be positive, one's going to be a plus, one's going to be a minus. So let's go ahead and drop parentheses in. I can drop my x values or my x's in. And one's going to be positive and one's going to be negative. It doesn't matter which order you put those in, as long as when you determine the values that are going to go in here, that the positive one goes with the plus and the negative one is going to go with that minus. So now I'm looking at factors of negative 24, that when I add them I get a positive 2. Well, again, I'm thinking 6 and 4, and now let's just kind of play around with this. My middle term is positive, which means the larger of these two numbers would have to be positive, which would mean this 6 would be positive, and then my 4 would be negative. So now let's check that out. So positive 6 times a negative 4 does get me a negative 24. And 6 plus a negative 4 is the same as 6 minus 4, does give positive 2. So we're good there. So again, make sure that the 6 is positive, put that with the plus, and the 4 is the negative, so put that with the minus. And let's do one more. Again, my C value is negative, so that means my signs are going to be opposite. So let's drop in our parentheses and drop in the x's. I can do a plus and a minus. And so now I'm looking at factors of -3 that when I add them, I get a -2. Well, 3 only has factors of 1 and 3. And again, you know, you can noodle it out in your head. The 3 would have to be negative because -3 plus 1 would give you the -2, or you can look at it this way. I have a 1 and 3. The 3 is a larger number, larger than 1, so 3 would have to take the sign of the middle term. And 1 minus 3 does get you a -2. So again, let's just drop them in.